Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov, better known as Lenin, was born in Simbirsk, Russia, on April 22, 1870. This seemingly ordinary town on the Volga River would be the birthplace of a man who would alter the course of Russian and world history. His father, Ilya Nikolaevich Ulyanov, was a school inspector dedicated to improving education for all. Lenin's mother, Maria Alexandrovna Ulyanova, fostered a love of literature and learning in her children. Lenin excelled in his studies, showing a particular aptitude for languages and history. He was known for his sharp intellect, voracious reading habits, and a drive to understand the world around him. This event had a profound impact on the young Lenin, sowing seeds of resentment against the Tsarist regime and igniting a passion for radical change. The execution of his beloved brother pushed Lenin towards a path of revolutionary activism, forever shaping his worldview and commitment to overthrowing the autocratic system he believed responsible for his brother's death. The execution of his brother cast a long shadow over Lenin's life, deepening his anger towards the Tsarist autocracy. Despite the tragedy, Lenin persevered in his studies, enrolling in Kazan University later that year to study law. Lenin's involvement in student protests against the government's restrictions on academic freedom led to his expulsion from the university within a few months of his arrival. This experience further fueled his disdain for the Tsarist regime and solidified his commitment to revolutionary activities. He moved to St. Petersburg, the heart of Russia's political and intellectual life, where he joined a growing movement of students and workers demanding political and social reform. Lenin's charisma, intellect, and fiery speeches quickly made him a leading figure in these circles. He tirelessly organized workers, distributed illegal pamphlets, and wrote articles criticizing the Tsarist regime, solidifying his reputation as a dedicated revolutionary and a formidable opponent of the Tsarist autocracy. Lenin's revolutionary activities soon attracted the attention of the Tsarist secret police, the Okhrana. In 1897, he was arrested and exiled to Siberia for 3 years. It was during this time that he adopted the pseudonym Lenin, a name that would become synonymous with revolution. Exile in Siberia, though harsh, provided Lenin with the opportunity to hone his political theories and connect with other like-minded revolutionaries. He emerged from exile in 1900, more determined than ever to overthrow the Tsarist regime and establish a socialist state in Russia. Lenin believed that Russia, despite its largely agrarian economy, was ripe for a socialist revolution, a view that set him apart from some of his contemporaries. Following his exile, Lenin went abroad, traveling across Europe to meet with other Marxist revolutionaries and to continue his writing and organizing. He played a key role in the formation of the Russian Social Democratic Labour Party, a Marxist party dedicated to overthrowing the Tsarist regime. However, the RSDLP was plagued by internal divisions from its inception. These divisions came to a head in 1903 at the party's second Congress, where a split occurred between Lenin's faction, the Bolsheviks, and the Mensheviks, led by Julius Martov. The split between the Bolsheviks and the Mensheviks centered around key ideological and strategic differences. Lenin's Bolsheviks, meaning majority, though they were actually the minority faction at the time, advocated for a tightly organized, disciplined party of professional revolutionaries. Section 5. Revolution's First Spark, 1905 and its aftermath. In 1905, Russia experienced its first revolution, sparked by a combination of factors, including economic hardship, political repression, and a humiliating defeat in the Russo-Japanese War. Workers' strikes and peasant uprisings spread throughout the country, forcing Tsar Nicholas II to make concessions. He issued the October Manifesto, promising a constitution and the establishment of a legislative assembly, the Duma. While these reforms were significant, they fell short of the radical changes demanded by Lenin and the Bolsheviks. Despite the concessions, the 1905 revolution was ultimately unsuccessful in overthrowing the Tsarist regime. The Tsar, with the support of the army and the police, managed to crush the uprisings and reassert his authority. For Lenin, it was a valuable learning experience, reinforcing his belief in the need for a disciplined revolutionary party and the inevitability of a future, more successful revolution. Section 6. The Great War and Russia's Upheaval. The outbreak of World War I in 1914 had a cataclysmic impact on Russia. The war effort exacerbated the country's existing economic and social problems, leading to widespread shortages, inflation, and social unrest. The Tsar's inept leadership and the heavy losses suffered by the Russian army further eroded public support for the regime. Russia teetered on the brink of collapse, creating a revolutionary situation that Lenin and the Bolsheviks were ready to exploit. In February 1917, a series of strikes and demonstrations in Petrograd, as St. Petersburg had been renamed, escalated into a full-blown revolution. The Tsar's authority collapsed, and he was forced to abdicate, ending centuries of Romanov rule. However, the provisional government proved to be weak and indecisive, unable to address the fundamental problems plaguing Russia. Section 7. Return to Russia and the October Revolution. The February Revolution created a power vacuum in Russia, with the provisional government vying for control with the Petrograd Soviet, a council of workers and soldiers. Lenin, who had been in exile in Switzerland, saw this as a historic opportunity to seize power. With the help of the Germans, who hoped to weaken Russia's war effort, Lenin returned to Russia in April 1917. His arrival in Petrograd, marked by his famous April Theses, sent shockwaves through the revolutionary movement. In his April Theses, Lenin called for the overthrow of the provisional government, an end to Russia's involvement in the war, and the establishment of a socialist state. Under Lenin's leadership, the Bolsheviks skillfully exploited the provisional government's weaknesses and the growing discontent among the masses. They promised peace, land, and bread, appealing to the war-weary population's desire for an end to the conflict, land redistribution, and economic relief. The October Revolution, as it became known, marked a decisive turning point in Russian history, bringing the Bolsheviks to power and ushering in a new era of communist rule. Section 8. The Crucible of Power, Civil War, and Consolidation. The Bolshevik seizure of power did not bring an end to the turmoil in Russia. Instead, it plunged the country into a bloody civil war that would last for nearly 3 years. The Bolsheviks, or Reds, faced opposition from a variety of forces, including monarchists, liberals, and other socialist groups, collectively known as the Whites. Despite facing overwhelming odds, the Bolsheviks, under Lenin's determined leadership, ultimately emerged victorious from the civil war. Several factors contributed to their success, including their superior organization, discipline, and control over the key cities and industrial centers. The Bolsheviks also benefited from the divisions and lack of unity among their opponents. By 1922, the Civil War had come to an end, leaving the Bolsheviks firmly in control of the newly formed Soviet Union. Lenin's leadership during the Civil War was characterized by ruthlessness and pragmatism. Section 9. A New Economic Order, Policies and Deteriorating Health. With the Civil War over, Lenin turned his attention to rebuilding the shattered Russian economy. To revive the economy, Lenin implemented the New Economic Policy, or NEP, in 1921. The NEP represented a significant departure from the Bolsheviks' earlier policy of war communism, which had involved the nationalization of all industry and the forced requisitioning of grain from peasants. The NEP was a strategic retreat from pure communism, allowing for a limited degree of private enterprise and market mechanisms. The NEP was successful in reviving the Soviet economy, leading to increased agricultural production and a gradual improvement in living standards. However, it was also a source of ideological tension within the Bolshevik Party, with some members viewing it as a betrayal of socialist principles. By the early 1920s, Lenin's health began to deteriorate rapidly. His declining health forced him to gradually withdraw from public life and sparked a power struggle within the Bolshevik leadership to determine his successor. Section 10. Death, Legacy, and the Lenin Cult. On January 21, 1924, at the age of 53, Vladimir Lenin died in his country house outside Moscow. His death plunged the Soviet Union into mourning and triggered a power struggle within the Bolshevik Party that would ultimately culminate in the rise of Joseph Stalin. Lenin's funeral was a massive state affair, attended by hundreds of thousands of mourners.
Lenin's legacy remains complex and contested to this day. He is revered by some as a visionary revolutionary who overthrew an oppressive regime and laid the foundations for a more just and equitable society. Others view him as a ruthless dictator who established a totalitarian system that would claim the lives of millions. The Soviet Union may be gone, but the ghost of Lenin still haunts the halls of history, a reminder of the enduring power and peril of revolutionary ideology.